Hello and welcome to the video version of our Jenkins Law Library Get to Know Us CLE class. In this short video, I want to give you a little bit of background about Jenkins Law Library and talk to you about how it can help you in your legal career. We'll also explore some of the electronic resources that Jenkins makes available to its members 24/7 from their desktops at home or in the office. Okay? Let's get started with information about Jenkins. As you can see, smack dab in the middle of the screen there, Jenkins is America's first law library. Around about 1802, a number of Philadelphia attorneys got together, and you can see there 71 of them, and formed the Law Library Company of the City of Philadelphia. Jenkins's name has changed over the years, but originally it was called that mouthful. And their annual dues were $2, and that is not an inconsequential amount of money. A rule of thumb from some of the economic data that I've seen is your basic book back then would cost about $1. So for the price of 2 books or $2, the local attorneys in Philadelphia got together, pooled their resources, and created a library cooperative. And so by paying $2, they got access to more materials than they would have if they tried to do it all on their own with their own resources. And that's the whole premise behind Jenkins today, is that by joining Jenkins, by paying the membership dues that we charge now, you are able to get access to a broader range of materials than you could have afforded or that you could have gotten a hold of on your own. So it increases your reach, increases your research abilities, and so forth. So that's the whole concept behind a library cooperative. Speaking of dues, right now, and I'm speaking to you as I assume Drexel students, and I'm assuming you haven't graduated yet, you actually have 2 options available to you as far as membership. If you are a law school student, you can join at the student level for $25 calendar year. You get access to all the materials that Jenkins makes available to its members down here in the facility. You can't check books out, but you can use them here in the facility. You can use the electronic resources that we have for our members as well. Once you graduate, if you are, for example, between jobs or looking for a job, there is something, you can see it there in the 3rd paragraph. We have what's known as the transitional rate, and that rate is a greatly reduced rate, generally speaking, for the first year when you're out of law school. If you haven't joined a firm yet, you haven't quite gotten that law job that you're looking for, you can join Jenkins at the transitional rate, which is a reduced rate, and still have access to the materials that you would want, you would need, that Jenkins provides. So you have an option there as law school students. And now that I've shown them to you, the last thing that I want to talk to you about is checking out our brick and mortar facility. Yes, we make a lot of resources available electronically, but there are going to be times when you're going to need to come down here or want to come down here, for example, to do more research in print materials, to get away from the office, to find a place to work, whatever. And you can actually take a virtual tour of the Jenkins brick and mortar facility courtesy of Google Maps. We enlisted the Google Street View people to take images, and you can actually go through the Jenkins facility. I'll just sort of spin around the reading area and the reference area, and you can walk through the collection. You can walk through the back rooms like the classroom. I won't go too far with this because you've probably seen Street View and you don't need me to do the driving for you, but this is a great opportunity for you to check out our facility before you come down to visit us. Okay? In the next section, I'm going to talk to you about how to begin your research with our catalog. When you're beginning your legal research, the first thing you should do is go on to a good catalog, and I'm going to say that Jenkins has a good catalog, in order to see what has already been published on a particular topic. Jenkins's catalog is aimed at the working attorney in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and even South Jersey and some of the areas surrounding Philadelphia. Okay, it's a more nuts and bolts collection, a little less theoretical perhaps than what you're used to using in law school. This is aimed at, as I said before, like a working attorney, how to do this, what to do that, how to get started in a particular area of the law, those kinds of topics. Okay, so you can search the Jenkins catalog and see what is available to you as a Jenkins member. You mouse over Research and then select Catalog. Okay. And we use one of the well-known library catalog vendors, so this may look entirely familiar to you at Drexel if you use the same vendor. I'm going to do a keyword search here, and I'm going to not go overboard, but show you a few of the Boolean operators that we support. What I have here in this query is I'm essentially asking for email policies. I'm asking for either spelling of the word email, and I have them grouped in parentheses to keep my synonyms together, and I'm combining it with any variation of the word policy. Basically, pollock asterisk will return policy, policies, policing. This is all Boolean logic that I'm assuming you've seen before in law school. This is what Lexis and Westlaw were basically founded upon, although they're moving into more googly interfaces like Westlaw Next and Lexis Advanced. But a well-done Boolean search will get you far in your legal career. So let's look at what we've got. We've got a lot of resources, but not an overwhelming amount, which is nice when you're getting started. You're seeing, a good selection of what's out there that you can get your arms around and get your head around and not get overwhelmed. One thing I wanted to point out before we got started is this. A lot of these resources that we've retrieved are only available in print. There was an article back in May of 2013 in the ABA Journal that said, on average, about 85% of a good law library has not been digitized yet. Or to look at it the other way around, only about 15% of a good law library has been digitized. So there's a lot of stuff out there that is available only in print, not available in electronic format, and you need to be aware of that. If you only work with what's available from your desktop, you're going to miss stuff. And it could be the stuff that you needed to be looking at when you started your research, because you need to look at the wider range of things, not just what's been digitized. And a great, for example, in this one is some of these hits. The first couple ones, well, actually the first three, I think. PBI. The yellow books. You'll see these yellow books. If you haven't run into PBI's yellow books now, you will someday, because PBI's CLE classes produced in book form with yellow covers, they're not digitized. There are some selected resources available from their website, but most of their stuff is print only. And these are, some of these classes are run every year. There's an auto law update every year, and if you are interested in or doing a lot of cases in auto law, you're going to want to look at those updates every year to see what's changed in the practice of law in that topic. So PBIs, for example, are not generally digitized, and you're not going to get them electronically. You're going to need to get them by a paper. That's one of the 85% of stuff that hasn't been digitized yet. We did a search for email policies, and you can see here hit number 3, for example, technology, techniques, and tips. My search terms aren't in the title. What we've done is we've digitized the table of contents. So here there is a chapter entitled The Perils of a Store Everything Email Policy. Maybe exactly on point for you. It is just a chapter in a larger PBI work that hasn't been digitized. We can provide you access to this chapter either by checking out looking at, reviewing the book itself, or getting a copy of the chapter sent to you. We send chapters of books to members in digital format for a fee, but we'll be able to send them a PDF of a chapter. So, if you remember nothing of this video, at least remember that it's not all on the internet. I would say, again, quoting that number, only about 15% of what's out there in the legal area has been digitized. So you should always start with the catalog and see what is there available in print. Okay. Now I'm going to do, having said that, I'm going to go and go a different route and say, well, what happens if you're trying to find a resource and you really want to find an electronic version of it? I'm going to do a new search. Actually, I'm going to search by title, and I'm going to search for the ABA Journal. Our catalog will give you a heads up about the format of a particular resource. For example, here's ABA Journal, and then in brackets we've got the microform version, and more importantly for you today, we've got the electronic resource. So if you look at this one and you think, okay, I'm interested in the electronic version of the ABA Journal, you will be able to find, by clicking in the catalog on this link, where it is available. And you probably already guessed this because I know you're in law school now, but the Hein Online resource, which I'm a big fan of Hein, has the ABA Journal in it, as does some of the other online resources. So, though our catalog will point you to the the 85% print only that's out there in the library, you can leverage our catalog to find digital versions of what you're looking for. Okay, this is a resource that's available to members and non-members alike. You don't have to be a Jenkins member to use our catalog, but if you want to go to the next step, which is looking at the resources like Hein Online, you would need to be a Jenkins member. Okay, in this last part of the video, I'm going to go to the next step, which is, okay, we've searched the catalog, and now we want to use some of the online databases that Jenkins makes available to its members. How do I get access to them? Well, once you've logged in, and you can see here I'm logged in, there's a snippet of my name, but I had to log in with my last name and my Jenkins member number. I can mouse over Research and then Member Databases, but it's a lot easier for this video just for me to click on the Member Center right here, and it will list all of the databases that I get access to. And you can see there's quite a few that Jenkins members get access to. If you don't see a blue button in this column, it means you can't access it remotely. You have to come down to the Jenkins facility to access the database. Let me try to group these into some sort of logical group rather than alpha. We produce databases ourselves at Jenkins. So for example, we have the Court Records and Briefs Index from the 3 PA courts plus the Third Circuit. Okay, you can search for cases. You can look at the first 5 pages of the Records and Briefs file online before you decide whether you want to purchase them or not. So that's one database that we create of Pennsylvania/Philadelphia/South Jersey type legal information. Another one is the Pennsylvania Legislative Histories database. We have about 1,200 of them going back to the early 1800s, and they're available in PDF format. If you need to know the intent behind a law in Pennsylvania, you can look at the legislative history and get an idea of what the law was intended to address. We will even produce them for people if they're not on the list, if they haven't already been done. We'll do them for our members for a fee. One other database that we're going to bring online in the next week or two, this is mid-May that I'm recording this video, is the Philadelphia City Solicitor opinion database. There are about 2,000 of them going back 50 or 60 years, and that will be online probably by the end of May, I imagine. Okay, now those are the databases that Jenkins creates for its members, and then we also license databases from reputable database publishers. And again, this gets back to that whole cooperative thing where we're making a lot of resources available to you that you would have to actually go and get licenses to or subscriptions to on your own. We make available to you via your membership. Some of them that I wanted to point out are, for example, online books. That for us was the next great frontier. It's one thing to get cases and statutes and whatever, even law review articles, but the online treatises, they're a lot more difficult to get online for members. So in 2014 we had our first two online books, and that would be Law Journal Press with 150 digital titles and Lois Law Treatise Library with 130. So we're closing in on 300 there in terms of online books. We also have a subscription to Hein. You probably have one at Drexel. Don't ignore ours, because we may have a different slice and dice of the pie than you do. There are so many different versions of Hein. We may have additional libraries than you get at Drexel. So if you become a member and you say, well, I already get Hein at Drexel, check out what we have. We may have more libraries than you're used to. We have 5 different versions or 5 different sources for online forms. And when you get out into the practice of law, you're going to need forms, and you need to get good versions of forms. One of the things that you can do is use the forms collection that we have, but I'm going to show you one thing which may help you with that. Right here on this page, the Busy Attorney's Guide to Jenkins Databases. It's organized not alphabetically but functionally. And as you go down this list, sample forms and pleadings, here are the 5 sources for forms. So I wanted to be able to point out that this page can help you from a logical sort of functional standpoint rather than alphabetical, which most people, the names don't always mean a lot to people. Alright, so let me just finish up this quick tour. We have Newsbank, which is a great source for people searching. If you need to find an individual or even background on a story, but especially if you're finding a person, newspaper archives going back 30 years can be very, very helpful, and they are very useful. And last but not least, if you need journal articles, but not necessarily law review articles, we're talking like medical or business or whatever, General One File is a good source for all-purpose, multi-subject, I guess is the better way of saying it, journal articles. So we have a number of different databases available. I have given you a very quick overview of them, and we make them available to our members 24/7 from their desktops at home or in the office.